Hi, sweeties. How are you doing? Welcome to Nara. Same awesome, Nara. Thank you so much for the support. Hope you all are doing great. So, coming across a video of a white man saying that he doesn't know that America is this racist, I think you probably did not start studying your own history right on time. Because if you did, you absolutely would know how your community are. But I am not going to hold you at that because I always say that whenever you wake up is your morning, right? So we continue. You talked about white people wanting to say the word very loud and not being able to voice it. You lie. Your people have been saying the word for so long. They've been saying that word. But you all can see what has been happening recently that they've been saying the word. Freedom of speech is allowed, but freedom after speech is not guaranteed. Some of them has actually been knocked out that they ended up in the hospital and they do not. Some of them, their brain has really been doing for a while because they got knocked out over what they said to black people, and that is what they deserve. I am not going to make excuses for anybody. Saying that black people deserve reparation, yes, black people absolutely deserve reparation. And I don't know why people are always disputing that fact, but you know what? That reparation is a must. Let's get into this video.
It sucks to be a white American. Now hold on, give me a chance, let me explain. I want you to think of the kind of person who would put on a White Lives Matter sticker on the back of their Ford pickup. Why do they do that? Is it all racism? Well, yeah. But I think it goes a lot deeper than that. White Americans basically have no culture. Not in the same way we see other people. And we white people, we know this inherently, and it scares us. We know we have our regional cultures. Our cities, our sports teams, and families all give us our regional culture, but being white basically means nothing, or generally at least nothing positive. White people throughout American history are almost always seen on the side of the oppressors. Not all white people, but most of us. And this sucks to learn. It's even harder to internalize. And it's why white people usually don't accept this, because it makes us feel a deep sense of guilt. I think it's why white people say nonsense like, I can't be racist, I have black friends. Sure, you probably don't see black people as objects, but you're refusing to accept the role our people have had in their oppression. That guilt we feel is our responsibility for the actions of our ancestors. It's why white people refuse to say that black people deserve reparation, because it admits our guilt. But black people deserve reparations. It just makes sense logically. You can sue someone for scratching your car, but black people can't sue the American government for the enslavement of their people. My people are arresting and deporting Mexican families from this country. Think about that. We are telling people that they are not allowed on the land we stole. Let's go a step further. White people stole a sacred land site from the people indigenous to this land and then carved 4 white people's faces on it, most of which were slave owners. I mean, Mount Rushmore is a place that we look at and we're like, oh, cool, giant faces. But to other people, it's a giant form of oppression, and admitting that and coming to terms with that sucks. We suck, dude. My people really and truly suck. Not all of us contributed to this oppression, but we are all a part of it. And this will mostly sound like virtue signaling. It will mostly sound like, look at how rough we are. But there is a reality to admitting this guilt and being honest with it. Because white people are afraid to do this. And we're afraid to admit it because my people are weak. White people are weak. We have power we have given ourselves and put down the cultures that are stronger than us because we know that we're weak. If white Americans were oppressed the same way black, native, or Mexican American people are, we would crack like glass. Our culture and identity as white people is so meaningless that we do everything in our power to keep other people down so that we don't break from having someone else on top. I think that's why you see white Americans championing white pride, not just out of ignorance or racism, but it's because they are scared. They're scared to come to terms with their guilt, scared to admit they're wrong, and terrified to acknowledge that we may have all the societal, economic, and political power, but as a people we are weak. But this isn't the way it has to be forever. I have hope that one day my people will finally take responsibility for what we have done. I hope that we'll collectively accept our role in the oppression of our non-white brothers and sisters and finally take action. And it will take the action of us white folks. It's not just non-white people that have to fight for their rights. It's us too fighting for them, because our cross to bear is being born white. Being born with the skin color of the oppressors means that we have to fight to be nothing like them. We're not near that right now. America is in a tumultuous stage where it very much does not feel like white people are acknowledging where they went wrong. But I want to have hope, and I refuse to accept that one day justice won't prevail. Collectively, we can all shed the shadow of oppression and share this place together. And that's the message I want to end with. I want to be hopeful that one day oppression will be something taught in history class, something that we don't have to see ourselves in. That's what I hope. Anyway, I want to be optimistic in the end. Anyway, that's it. Thanks.
Seeing the clip from Jeff Daniels in the newsroom about tell me what's great about America. Fundamentally, that is why we're here as a country. When I hear Make America Great Again, when? Let's review America. Let's look at its greatness, shall we? We started off by genociding the Native Americans by the millions, whose land was rightfully theirs. We just took it from them, and we didn't value their lives. Then we started this country, then we took black people from Africa because we didn't value their lives. Then we forced them to pick our cotton and raise our kids and build our White House and do all the work that white people were too lazy to do. Wow, starting off really great, isn't it? And then we come up with the Constitution in 1787. And we're still waiting for this greatness, right? So the founding fathers that were racist slave owners that owned black people like cattle, great start, right? They designed the country to benefit 21-year-old land-owning white men, and black people were only worth 60% of a white man. And then women didn't have the right to vote, have credit, no-fault divorce. They were also treated as less than the white man. And we said, yay, we're great, we're America, now we're free. Except for everybody except the white man. And black Americans couldn't drink from the same water fountains, sit on a bus, go to church, and on and on and on. Slavery, Jim Crow, Black Wall Street, and all the time, my demographic, we're great, we're great, we're great. Then you fast forward to 2024. And we finally have the opportunity to do something. To show that we're going to progress as a society. Not just the most qualified black woman, but the most qualified candidate in the history of our country. And this country did what it always does. It fell back on the most uneducated, morally bankrupt, foolish, childish, immature plantation owner that wears diapers and orange makeup. Because that's what America wants. We have 11.1% of our population that live in poverty. 14 million children go to school hungry every day. We have over 40,000 people that sadly lose their lives to pew-pew violence because we do nothing about it because we're such a great country. Our largest employer, Walmart, has 15,000 people that are on public assistance that you and I pay for. We have the most incarcerated prison systems in the entire world. Now, if you're a black man and you're running down the street like a Mount Aubrey, you got a bunch of white U.S. citizens that think you're stealing something because you're black. And they unalive him. If you're a convicted felon and you abuse women and you try to overturn a free and fair election through an insurrection, you get to be president. If you take a knee and stand for what's right, you're called the son of a bitch and you lose your job. But if you're white and you storm the Capitol and you attack police officers on video and you admit to it in a court of law and you're found guilty by a jury of your peers, you get pardoned because we're such a great country. There's a lot of countries that have freedom. Australia, Belgium, Iceland, Canada, Japan. Lots of countries have freedom. We're $36 trillion in debt because we can't even balance a budget because we're so wasteful as Americans. The story with Adriana Smith really summarizes how broken this country truly is and how little it actually values a life that doesn't look like me. She's a 30-year-old black mother, and she has a little son. When she was 9 weeks pregnant, she got a clot in her brain. And sadly, her brain is no longer functioning. It's awful. I don't know all the details, but she's no longer viable as a functioning person. So the state of Georgia, because they're so pro-life, because of their heartbeat bill, they've turned her into a human incubator, which is morally reprehensible. It's repulsive. It's gross. So for the last 60 days, they've kept her alive to save that infant. And her young son comes by and visits, and he thinks that his mom is sleeping. That is gut-wrenchingly heartbreaking. Because they want to push their agenda to populate more children in this country. But what happens after that is really what America is. They don't care if that family goes into medical debt, files bankruptcy, loses their house, from being forced to leave her daughter on a ventilator. Who knows how long? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more months? Let's just presume the baby makes it somehow without any defects. America doesn't care if that kid has food, if it has a house. It doesn't care if it has health care. It doesn't care if it's unalived in a school due to Pe0ple violence. And it sure in the hell doesn't care if it has clean water and clean air. So my question for you, MAGA, what exactly is great about this country? I'll tell you what you think is great. Your whiteness. Your version of white America. Having 800 million American flags? No, that's not great. Having a pet bald eagle? That's not great. Worshipping a flag, praying to it, singing to it? No. See, what you don't realize because you're too ignorant is that that flag to a lot of people, to Asian Americans, to black Americans, to women, to minorities, it's been a symbol of oppression since the inception of this country. That's what you fail to realize because you're too ignorant. That's why we're here. Because you don't care that other people view that flag differently than you. You're insulted when I say America has never been great for everybody. We have to come to terms with that. And if it makes people angry, that's too goddamn bad. I can both appreciate people that served this country and fought for our freedoms and safety. But I can also say in the same breath, it has never been great for everybody. Kicking out trans people who have served in our military for 15 or 18 years while you voted for a little coward-ass bitch that had bone spurs that wears makeup and diapers. There's nothing patriotic about it. Those trans people served this country bravely. And you are cowards for kicking them out. They protected your freedom and my freedom. And that is one more example of why this country isn't great. Because you want to make America white again. You want one thing and one thing alone. Straight, white, Christian America. But if you commit felonies, if you steal from cancer charities, if you cheat on your wives with a porn star, if you steal top secret documents, if you have dinner with white nationalists, if you insult people, if you make fun of people, if you talk about Hannibal Lecter and electric sharks, as long as you're a white man in your America, that's okay, because you want to make America white again. You have a good day.
I am honestly exhausted of people who look like me claiming that racism doesn't exist in this country anymore. Are you being for real? Because a lot of you are the same people who were so threatened by the fact that an intelligent, articulate, good man who cared about other people, took care of his family, and provided good leadership could be elected to president. Obama was really the start of Trump, in my opinion, because that provided the anger and rage that led to your choice to vote for a corrupt con who is mentally ill and incapable of caring about anyone else to a position of leadership. Self-serving POS. And you cheer it on as he takes away your power to represent our democracy and consolidates his power to do whatever he wants. It's like you never read any history. You don't understand what happened in Europe as a result of this same ignorance. I'm just so exhausted. I can't believe that so many people who claim to really care about the rights and privileges we have are so willing to elect someone who wants to take them away. And you think that he cares about you. Ugh, man, it's sad.
Good evening, everybody. I was just watching a TikTok a little bit earlier by a beautiful sister, and she was talking about how America has broken her heart, how this rapid movement backwards, this rush to segregation, the rush back into Jim Crow, all of this, and how it was breaking her heart. And I don't know how I feel about that. And she is right to have her feelings, and I respect them deeply. But I'm not sure America has broken my heart. I don't know that I've ever expected. I was hopeful that we could be better, but I think age has taught me a few things. Being in leadership, being out in corporate America, all these mythologies about the greatness of America. A lot of holes have been shot into that for me just by working with people that you expected to be better, but they weren't. I have had some really disappointing kind of interactions with people that I thought, even you with your liberal leanings and all of that, and your outspokenness about rights. But when it came down to it, I wouldn't count on you to do anything to protect me. And so maybe it's how I protected myself, and never fully believing in this concept and the propaganda that America has put out about its greatness, its uniqueness, its leaders of the free world, this, and maybe it's because I've traveled all over the world. I'm heading to my 20th country on Thursday. So I've been a lot of places, and I have been in small towns in the middle of nowhere in Hungary and other places where I know nobody was thinking about America and its idea of superiority. But the people were kind. They took care of each other. They took care of their families. Their health care is taken care of. They were in family homes. There was togetherness, and they weren't worrying about their government turning on them like a rabid dog. And I guess the other part of me is that history repeats itself over and over and over again. And as education is threatened right now, we have got to do some work with the freedom schools in the summer. But also, if you have skill sets, especially around history, you need to share those with students. You need to make it fun, but you need to make it educational, and so they understand what happened during slavery, what happened right after slavery, what was Reconstruction about, what were the remnants of Jim Crow, how do we get to Jim Crow, what was happening that drove the country into these extremely oppressive things that they were doing to Black folks. What has always fueled the behavior that we're seeing now, that we thought with time, with 60, 70 years behind some of these laws, that we thought we were better, that somehow we'd figured out that formula. But those who look like me, who are in a lot of these spaces, understood a lot of the stuff was just under the surface. There was compliance because people were afraid to not look good. And not looking good meant not having the business they wanted, i.e. Target. Target never really believed necessarily in DEI, but they saw it as a good thing to do for business, and their values disappeared. Their supposed values disappeared when there was any pressure at all put on them. And so this is what I see, and this is what I've seen for a long time in a lot of the circles in which I do my work, that there are times when people are highly sincere when they come to me and they want me to work on their organizational cultures, but there are times when I have an interview with an organization and I decide to say no, because I know their value systems are too flaky, they're too dependent on what the flavor of the month is, and I know they're not going to do right by their workers, by their teams. And so I don't take those contracts anymore. I'll never be desperate enough to take on valueless organizations for my own personal reputation, but the emotional trauma it gives to me when I know I'm working with people who are fake. So I don't know, I'm rambling a bit, but I am disappointed, yes, surprised, not a lot, hurt a little, because I don't want my kids and my grandchildren to suffer under what I realize my grandparents suffered under. And so that's the tougher thing for me, is just the actual what these policies will actually do to us. But in terms of deep surprise or hurt, probably not, because my expectations were just not that high. I wanted them to be better, but this man told us who he was. He surrounded himself with people who were just like him, and their whole idea is to destroy this democracy and turn it into a dictatorship and secure all the power and the money they possibly can before they die in the next few years so they can give it to their kids. And that everybody else is suffering, that people are going to be losing it soon. They don't care. They don't care. This man has spent a third of his time in the office golfing. And so there's not a care about us. You never hear him talk about what is going to make America better. It's just who he could beat up. And with that kind of leader, this is where we are. This country was always vulnerable to that type of leader. We just never thought we'd elect one. And now we know how surfacey a lot of these commitments were to multiculturalism, to a lot of these things. They were transactional. And so when pressed at all to stop doing it, I'm watching this in colleges and universities and corporations. I'm seeing people capitulate before they're even asked to do so. They're like, oh, okay, well, we may not get all the money we used to get. We don't believe in that anymore, or whatever. Did you ever? And so I pray for us as a nation. I am also trying to protect myself as much as I can, as well as my peace. But we're in for a pretty terrible ride for the next few years. So please protect your heart, lower your expectations, do the best that you can do, but don't think that there's some white horse that's going to ride up and save us, because we are now in a constitutional crisis. This man is refusing to do things that the Supreme Court is telling him to do. Y'all, that's a constitutional crisis. This is a dictatorship. And the sooner we figure out that's where we are and then figure out what our next steps are, the better. So, just my thoughts for tonight.
America is so much more racist than I thought. Y'all, I've been too naive. See, I've been under the impression that the most dangerous form of racism in this country is our subconscious racism. And I don't think I'm totally off base here, because it makes sense. Think about it like this. If you're a black person and you go in for a job interview, you're most likely not going to be called a slur and told to get the fuck out. But you might be turned down from getting the job because the interviewer didn't like your vibe. They didn't like how you talked black or you seemed ghetto. You know, that kind of racism. Like, that happens all the time, and in my opinion is the most prevalent form of racism. Like, the interviewer may not even think that consciously, but they just have these long-held opinions of black people real deep in their psyche, and now it colors all of their actions. I mean, this kind of racism is everywhere. White people being scared because they see a black person with their hood up, or a Middle Eastern man wearing a turban, and now they're all clutching their fucking pearls. Or how about black women are 3 times more likely to die than white women during pregnancy and childbirth? I'm never going to stop talking about that statistic because it's literally insane. People just don't take black women seriously in healthcare and they fucking die over it. So yeah, I've always thought this network of mainly subconscious racism is the most dangerous because it forms the foundation of our overall racist system. But you know what changed my mind? This fucking Jubilee debate. Could you even call this a debate, dude? This was practically a Klan rally. This motherfucker, with his whole fucking chest, said he was a fascist and supported a Nazi. And you know what the rest of the inbred clown posse back there did? They fucking clapped. And they applauded this motherfucker. And I am over it, dude. This message goes out to all of the conservatives in this debate and to anyone who agrees with them. You do not belong here. You are so goddamn up in arms over illegal immigrants coming over here and ruining this country. But motherfucker, they belong here because those guys have actually improved this fucking country. But you? As soon as you call yourself a fascist, you are no longer an American. So get the fuck out.
This is all I got from this video. You didn't know on time that America is very racist. But there is no, every day is, each time you wake up is your morning, right? America is very racist, for those that do not know. If you or I don't know, but anybody that think that black people just not deserve reparation, you are actually not you don't know what it's going on. You don't understand your history. You need to go deep and read your book to understand more. And a lot has actually been said when it comes to reparations on black people. Black people deserve everything, every damn thing when it comes to reparation. And why is it that it is only when it comes to black people, when we talk about black reparation, that is when everybody will come out to say, why do I have to pay when it was not in my generation, or this, that. But you are still enjoying the fruit of all those things they built. Because, black people built America. Even your daddy now, Trump, also once acknowledged it. He knew. But the same your daddy is now fighting so that black history cannot be taught because they said it is too woke. Everything, I have never seen people's history that is too woke except for black people. Every other person is entitled to talk about their history, but black people cannot talk about their history. Why? Because it hurts their feelings. How can someone's history hurt their own feelings? But this was what your own people did to my own people. But now we are the bad people for talking about our own history, for talking about what you people did to my own people. See, when it comes to saying the N word, I don't try to hold white people on saying the N word. Why? Because they have been saying it even without my knowledge, or even when it is not in my presence. Saying that they don't say it or they want to say it is a lie. They voiced it. They've been voicing it. They've been saying it. They say it boldly to black people's faces. And the truth is that these days, when they say it, what they get out of it sometimes lands them in the hospital. Go check out so many places. You will see the result of what they said to black people that did not go well. And this is how it's been. And this is how it will continue to be. You might be lucky to say it to somebody that might be in a hurry for that day. Or maybe the Holy Spirit touched the person's heart, or maybe the person for that day is a super core gentleman. But every day for the thief, one day for the owner of the house. So the day it will be for the owner of the house. You might land in the hospital like the woman in Cincinnati that said that her brain is touching. Her brain is doing like it. When the spark, when you join two electrical wires together, how it sparks. That's what I am sorry. That's how her brain is doing right now. Why? Because she messed with the wrong people. I've been saying this all the time, that you might mess around with me. Maybe I am sick that day and I cannot even feel myself. Maybe the next person you might mess with is fully healthy and can deal with you mercilessly. Choose your fight. Well, choose who you want to fight with well, because black people aren't smiling these days. So I am going to draw the curtain here, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye for now.